Hey, lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. I wanted to say to you guys, just be prepared. Some of y'all are going to be pissed at me tonight because I have a lot of things to say. I have very unpopular opinions. So I'm just giving you a heads up. If you're very sensitive, you may not like it. But hit that like button, okay? Or dislike button, that works too. Whatever you feel, just hit that like or dislike button. Either way works. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the scene between Porsha and Drew. Now, I know a lot of people have been like dragging Porsha for that scene, but I watched that scene multiple times and I kind of bear in mind I love Porsha and Drew, right? But I stepped behind and I was like, okay, I like both of them. Let me take a step back and watch this multiple times because I wanted to try and pay attention to what other people may not be addressing or talking about or paying attention to. You guys know I like to give you guys some details that other people may miss. But what really gagged me was this. I went back and I played it a few times because I was like, okay, I'm trying to see who escalated it. And you guys may hate me for saying this, but I genuinely believe that Drew escalated it. I think Porsha came on wanting to have a more civil conversation. Ooh, all right. Rosa is starting off early, honey. Because I was still about to tell you all about the Drew situation, and Rosa don't clocked Drew. Drew starts too much mess and is a big liar, so miss me with this. She's standing up to Porsha and Shamea BS. Not Rosa trying to check me, girl. It's just a title. When, yes, she's standing up to her, but that doesn't mean that it landed. Okay. So follow me for a second and hit that like button. Okay. What I was saying, like I said, Drew escalated the whole conversation. I went back, I watched it a few times. Drew escalated the conversation. Let's be clear. And I'm going to replay this for you guys for a second. First of all, Drew kept interrupting her. Porsha whilst Porsha was talking. And you could tell that Porsha came on a very calm vibe. She was definitely ready to just like dead the whole thing. She's got her lick back. She's feeling all right. She pulled up. I was just trying to have a conversation to dead the whole thing. But then when you like think about it, Drew literally flipped. Once Porsha was saying like, yeah, like Dennis was basically saying, like, you guys don't have anything going on, you're dating someone else. Then Drew looks confused. So Portia was like, yeah, black. And after, it's like, what did Portia say that for? Because once she said that, Drew was like, yeah, nah, I'm getting in that ass, in my opinion. At least that's how it felt. And then Drew basically did not let her finish. Drew interrupted her to be like, well, that's like me saying you're dating Future. And I'm thinking, girl, are you dating this man? Because why are you so explosive about this whole you dating him? Portia is not saying you're even dating him. Portia was just saying, like, yo, Dennis said you were dating somebody else, who's called this, da 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 da. That is it. That it could have been there and it could have been done. Drew, on the other hand, was not trying to let that slide at all. She was not even like, she could have just said, oh, I'm not dating him, da 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 da. Instead, she took it to, that's like me saying you're dating Future. I'm like, girl, why are you so pressed? Like, what is going on? And I know a lot of people are saying, like, Drew ain't. Well, I think for me, I kind of felt like it was given very combative. And I know because people don't like Porsha this season, a lot of people are not seeing what is right in front of all of us. And that's the thing. I'm like, just because you don't like somebody, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't at least try to see like what is going on. And I feel like it's given you don't even want to know what's going on. You don't want to even like consider the fact that someone else could be wrong because you lot hate Porsha. And by you lot, I'm not talking about you guys directly. I'm just saying the people that hate the Porsha haters, right? I feel like they're very much not even observing. Like I went back because I read the comments and the comments were dragging Porsha for filth. And I went back and I watched it again. And I watched it again. I even almost got on this live late because I had to watch it a few times because I was like, okay, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Let me go back and watch it again. And I saw that it started off as a casual conversation, but then Drew escalated it by basically saying, you didn't even let her finish her sentence. You interrupted her to talk about her dating future, allegedly. Then you start talking about her divorce, knowing fully well what's happening in the social media of it all, right? So I'm like, girl, you interrupt me whilst I'm talking. I'm coming with like a civil, very civil energy, blah, blah, blah. You interrupt me whilst talking. Then you start talking about me dating future. Then you start talking about the divorce. It's like, girl, what are we doing? Now, is it to say that Drew is not getting her lick back? Absolutely. I personally think that Drew is getting her lick back. I think Drew was pissed that Ralph and Porsha and Shamea filmed, and she is like, yeah, nah, I'm getting in all of y'all's asses. I feel like that's what it was. But to act like Drew was innocent in that scene and Portia was the one that escalated things is crazy to me. You don't gotta like any of them, but just watch, observe, think about what was said, how was it said, when did it escalate, you know? And I think body language is also very, very important. Drew literally had a smirk on her face. She just looked like almost like a smile. She knew what she wanted to do. She knew what she was the plan, and she was there to perform, in my opinion, right? And like I said, I like me some Drew, but I felt like that scene it came across as she was being very condescending. I I personally I would have clocked her and then walked off as well because you're not about to sit in my face, interrupt me so I can't speak to you and then start bringing up me dating, then talking about talking about the divorce and stuff. Of course, anybody is going to feel some type of way. And I think for me, Drew, it's disgusting of you to ever say that about another woman and say, I'm starting to understand why Simon left you. That is something a horrible person would say. And no matter what has happened, for you to go to that down to that extent, that means deep down that's how you really feel, honey. And let's be clear, for me, there is no, even if there's going to be a resolve, we are not going to be friends after you say something like that about me. No, ma'am. Imagine we are saying that and we're blaming you for the relationship that you have with Ralph. Imagine we're out here dogging you out and blaming you and saying I'm starting to understand why Ralph treats you the way he does. Why Ralph said you don't deserve a lobster and you deserve Lunchables. Imagine we all started saying that, Drew. How would you feel? That is a very disgusting thing to say about another woman. And first of all, Simon didn't leave her. Simon would have been happy to continue to stay and be with Porsha. Porsha left his ass, allegedly. Okay. So, but either way, as a woman who is going through a divorce, whose husband continues to embarrass her in public, on social media, whoever cares to listen, he is constantly embarrassing you. So the fact that you think it's okay for you to have that energy towards another woman is vile to me. And I don't care if it's like, oh yeah, it's a performance, da 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 da. Nah, you don't do that. You don't do that. And that's why I say like it gives Drew throws the rocks and hides her hands. She literally said out of her own mouth, she doesn't know. She thinks Portia is projecting and she did not do anything wrong. Portia has no reason to be upset at her. Girl, You are so upset and worked up right now because she filmed with Ralph. But you think she has no reason to be upset at you for you filming with her baby daddy without letting her know? It is no fun when the rabbit got the pow pow, is it now? It's crazy. So you are allowed to be upset about the fact that she filmed with Ralph, but she's not allowed to be upset about the fact that you filmed behind her back with her baby daddy. That's crazy. That's nasty work. And it's like, okay, standing your truth and just say, do you know what? I've had time to reflect, and you know what? Fair enough. Because now that you filmed with my husband, I know how it feels. You could have said that. You could have. It could have been a nice kiki moment, but you didn't. You wanted to take it there. You wanted a moment. And this is why people feel like they cannot really relate to you, because sometimes things that don't need to go there goes there with you, Drew, in my opinion. In my opinion. Now, for those who love the combative thing, I'm sure like people are clapping because, they want Porsha to be humiliated this season because they don't like Porsha anymore. So, of course, a lot of people will be clapping about that. But for me, I can't clap about somebody who is saying to another woman, I know why your husband is leaving you. That is crazy. That is nasty work. Especially when you're going through a divorce from according to you, a narcissist, but you couldn't even tell us what a narcissist means, right? And you want us to believe and take your side and ride for you and be supportive of you, but you say that's about another woman. And I know a lot of people will say, yes, it's not Portia's husband. At the end of the day, Drew's husband, it's different. Girl, stop it. Stop it. Let's not act like Portia was not about to marry Dennis in the past. They were engaged. She would have married him if he did not mess up and was out here cheating, right? So let's be clear. She thought like that was her forever, the person that she was gonna marry. They were all of that. So if you have so much empathy and you understand where Drew is coming from, then I don't understand why you guys fail to understand where Portia is coming from on this situation. It's crazy to me. You don't have to like her, but like, let's add two and two together. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I want to quick sidebar. I absolutely love hearing Cynthia talk about her new man. Okay. And I was here for it. Now, Cynthia, it feels like Cynthia is being loved correctly because she's out here blushing. She's out here talking about this man. They've been dating for over a year already. And she loves her, that man. Apparently, she was telling us he's consistent, he is sweet, he's such a lover. And I love that for her. I love hearing like women being loved correctly. I love hearing women being loved correctly. Personally, I really, really love that. I really, really love that. So I really enjoyed like listening to her talk about this man. Now, I will say I actually went to go check out his songs because I was like, when I saw them on TMZ and they were like, oh, he's an artist. So I was like, all right, let me listen to his songs. Guys, his songs are actually really good. His songs are actually really good. I wish he was getting a lot more notoriety. Maybe he does over in Amsterdam, but he deserves a lot more views and engagement. His songs are actually really good. Let's move on to Drew and Shamea. Now, Drew cracked me the heck up. I will say that. Drew definitely cracked me up when she literally responded to Shamia and she said the hit dog will holla. Girl, what? Drew is clocking in this episode. This one, so far, my favorite moments with Drew this season. This a hit dog will holla bit. And then do you guys remember the conversation that Drew had with Brit when she was like, have you ever sold it? And Brit was like, what? And she said, the cat. The cat. I'm like, yeah, Shamea, girl, I don't think you were ready for Drew's energy. Drew was just like, yeah, nah. And that's another thing I say about Drew, right? It's entertaining, but I've noticed that Drew will say something and then she'll be smirking like she doesn't know what she is saying. She has this like, dainty smile on her face. Like, go back and watch Drew and Shamia. When she said a hit dog Wahala, she even looked like she was cracking up a smile. I'm like, girl, what? Now, when I tell you that Drew said, but yeah, she was at the table barking, I said, girl, Shamia, I am embarrassed for you. One of the most embarrassing scenes I've ever encountered is Shamia barking at the point of being called a lapdog. That is so embarrassing. And I don't know if she's ever going to be able to let it go. Ever. Ever. I don't think people are going to be able to let it go. I think it will continue to come up that she was out here screaming, barking like a dog. Like, girl, you are not beating those allegations, honey. Not anytime soon. Okay, let me see. Zena said, I don't support any of them. It's just for entertainment. But there's a twist to what is said to suit a narrative. All these women have been hanging up on her. Um, Zena, do you mean like all the women have been like ganging up on Drew? Or are you talking about Porsha? Let me know in the live chat. Um, but yeah, girl, I get it. Like sometimes when you're watching these shows, right? I feel like also one thing I've noticed is they always edit the show to suit whatever narrative they're trying to push. So it's always like watch with a grain of salt. And even when you're watching, I think that's why when we do our commentary over here, we just like focus on what it is that we're seeing on the episodes. And if we're talking about like what's happening in the streets, then we talk about it like, casually. Um, but I always give a little bit of allowance, especially because of the editing as well. But yeah, let's get back on track with this whole hit dog will holler, honey, because I definitely hollered and I was not a hit dog. I was like, what in the heck is going on? Okay, let me just. So Zena is saying, yeah, ganging up on Drew, it's been happening for a few weeks now. Zena, honestly, it's been happening for years. If you go back and watch the previous seasons, Drew is the one they usually gang up on a lot. And I feel like the reason is because Drew doesn't really know how to clap back in general. If you notice, the moment that she's able to have a solid response are moments when she has gone home and then come back to the situation. So it's not an immediate thing. So that's why most times people gang up on her because her comebacks aren't really that witty. And usually she's not really, I don't think she's very quick on her feet with her comebacks. I think that it's more practiced reads, in my opinion. I may be wrong, but I feel like they've always gone up on her, in my opinion, in terms of like previous seasons as well. It's always been a lot of people coming for Drew. I remember when there was a time where everybody was calling her a liar. But okay, give examples of the things that she's lied about and stuff like that compared to the others. You can't. So I really feel like they've been doing that for a long time. I remember, like, I think, was it the last season or the season before that, where I kept on, like, a lot of, like, times when I talk about it, I'm literally riding for Drew because it just felt like such a gang up. The only person that I feel like genuinely has a reason to be upset at Drew this season is Porsha. I would be upset too if you're out here filming with a baby daddy of mine. I would be pissed too. And it's clear because she was pissed too when Portia returned the favor with her husband. Rightfully so. It's all vile on all counts, right? So that's how I genuinely feel. I think that Drew is an easy target for the girlies. She will always be an easy target for the girlies. She's just not that quick on her feet. Maybe people will stop coming for her as much because of like these recent episodes, but I don't think it's enough for them to stop coming for her, especially because she's had 3 years or so on the show and it's only like one or two scenes that you'd see where she really like claps back and brings it and it lands. And so think about it, right? Like if especially if you come on a show, right? You would think about like who is the weakest link. And I hate to say that because I like me some Drew. I love her music, all that kind of stuff. I support her and stuff, but I feel like people come for who they believe is the weakest link on a show, especially the newbies. And I know Shamea is technically not a newbie, but she is a new peach holder. So who best to come against than somebody like Drew, who you can go toe to toe with? Now, Angela has shown us that Angela is not one to be messed with. Okay. And I think that a lot of the newbies will pick at the people they feel like is the weakest link or are the weakest links. Because then you would see Shamia and Brit go at it. Because obviously, from what you see, Brit is also not very good at clapping back. So, which means, like, girl, those are the best people for you to pick on. It's sad, but I just think like that's what it is. So I don't really see Drew. Yeah, I don't really see. Do you guys think Drew is going to? Let me ask this question, and Zena, I also want you to get involved if you can. Do you think Drew is coming back next season? Let me know in the chat, because I on the one hand, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, like at least this last episode, Drew brought it a little bit and stuff. But then I'm just like, do I see her coming back next season? I don't know. I don't know. That's the answer. That's the answer. Zena said they have been dragging that lie narrative in all the interviews they attend, and we are yet to see the lie. Girl, we are not going to see the lie. Let's be honest. We're not going to see the lie. Um, I feel like they always say this every year. It's like an easy thing to use against her, right? Because in the past, a lot of people have called her liar, and it's stuck. So now it's easier for people to just say that, to repeat that. They don't have to like come up with any new reads for her. They can just call her the same thing people have called her for years: liar, probably performative. She's faking things. Like those are the things that they can use, right? So I suspect that would continue to be a thing for a while. I don't think Drew is ever going to be able to get rid of that. But yeah, I am curious as to whether or not she does come back next season. I think if she is on Watch What Happens Live soon, then we'll know she's coming back, or she may be coming back. If she is not, then girl, she ain't coming back. Zena says for sure she's coming back. I mean, she's the only housewife that shows her life, especially the ugly parts. I hear that, Zena, but I don't think that production and Bravo really like her like that. And this is just my opinion, I may be wrong, because like everyone else has been on Watch What Happens Live. Drew has not been. So it's like, it's a little suspicious. It is given very much suspicious. So that's why I'm a little bit like, I don't know. And the fact that Drew then went and did an interview with Carlos King, of all people, girl, I am not sure. I am not sure. I don't think production would have liked the fact that she did an interview with the Carlos King. I may be wrong, but that is just what I think. And also I think part of the reason that people struggle with Drew is Zena. I don't know if you saw that video where Ralph was literally feeding her. The thing is, people are like, well, he's putting you through all of this, like you say. How come you are allowing him to feed you? So these are some of the things that people say about Drew, and that's why they feel like she's not really sharing her reality, and that everything she is sharing is just, yeah, it's just like whatever she has concocted for us. And it doesn't help that her husband is going out talking about how she's performative and how she likes to act. She doesn't know when to stop with the acting. It's like, you don't need that. and then trying to make it seem like she's using him for a storyline. You don't want all of that. So I don't know if she will come back, but it'll be interesting to see if she does. I also think it's interesting that Drew keeps talking about like she wants Nene back on the show, all of that. I'm like, girl, okay, you want Nene back, but if Nene is on the show, what's really gonna happen? Kenya came back after an interview with Carlos and she said some deep stuff. Drew shared nothing on that interview. So let's be clear. Words in the street allegedly, and this is, I feel like, has been evidence in the fact in the way they have treated Kenya, is that she was not allegedly their pick. Apparently, she wasn't really. So basically, word on the street allegedly is that they didn't even want Kenya back. Apparently, she was pretty much like one of their last picks. It was like they had picked everybody else and we're like, okay, all right, let's just add her to the lineup. According to the streets, I don't know if it's true or not, right? But the way they have treated Kenya, in the sense that Brit also did something wrong and alleged that she had a pow pow, but they did not get rid of Brit, but they got rid of Kenya. It shows that they don't really see it for Kenya, and I've never really seen it for Kenya for a long time. So it may not have had anything to do with the interview, but they do not necessarily see it for Kenya. No matter how we feel, they really don't. Um, so yeah. Anyways, so let's go back to Drew and Shamea a little bit. Now, the thing I think is really interesting is that did you guys pick up on this? Shamea literally said, so Angela first said that, she feels some type of way about the fact that anytime they talk and whatnot, Shamea runs it back to Porsha. So Phaedra comes in and she's like, well, that's her best friend. Like, of course, do you guys expect her to not run it back? And I'm like, that's a very good question because ain't nobody going to be talking about my best friend in that way and I will not run it back. Honey, whilst you're saying it, I will tell you that I will run it back because my loyalty is to my girl, not you. So I will call it out then and I will tell you I will be running it back. But I also understand Angela's perspective because if we're all chilling and you talk to me about this girl and then now and I haven't even told anyone yet and then you run it back. Now, what I can't remember is the timeline. And I also say that because even the way they show us may be different from the way it was recorded. So I'm very careful about what I say specifically on this issue because from on the one hand, it looks like Angela, girl, why are you upset that Shamea ran a conversation back when you did the same thing by taking what Shamea said and you pinky sweared not to say anything and you took it to Porsha? So it's like, girl, why did you do that? So to me, it feels like you're doing the same thing you are accusing Shamea of doing, or you did the same thing you accused Shamea of doing. Now, in all fairness to Angela, that could have been retaliation for her laughing about the whole Porsha saying she's going to smash Charles or something. So it could have been that. But either way, it's just like, Angela, please leave that for someone else to say because you run a lot of things back. So maybe you're not the right messenger. But there was something Shamea said, and I quote, and I don't know if you guys quote it. Shamea literally said that every time no, I'm gonna rephrase that. She said, most of the times, you guys are making it seem like I'm out here talking about Porsha, but most of the times it's you guys bringing it to me. She said most of the time. She did not say all of the time. She did not say, I've never spoken about my best friend to you guys. You guys bring it to me and I respond. I don't bring the conversation to you guys. Did you guys pick up on it? And if I have to give Shamia, a round of applause. Round of applause, honey. Because the way you've been able to avoid addressing what it is that you said, wow, that you really need a medal for that because you've done so well. You've absolutely done so well with being able to just fly under the radar like that. Like, girl, interesting. You literally said most of the time it was them bringing it to you. So what happened when it wasn't most of the time? What happened? Sometimes were you the one bringing it to them? Because if I say most of the time, that means it wasn't all of the time. That means there were times when I was the one talking to you about my so-called best friend. That is a problem. And it's quite surprising that nobody on that table was clocking that. I would have said, what do you mean most of the time? So when, like, but it's just like, because I feel like this season everybody's against Porsha except Cynthia and Phaedra now. But it feels like nobody really is seeing it for Porsha. Nobody is clocking it. Because if my best friend was out here saying, yeah, most of the time someone is the one that brings it to me, I don't be saying that. Like, girl, so what happens when it's not most of the time? Sometimes? What did you tell them? That's what I would be saying. But I don't even think Porsha clocked that. Sometimes I feel like Porsha can be so clueless. I don't think that I don't think that people caught that. Let me see. Tina is saying for the most part, yes, but I think it's because the girls were concerned by how Portia acts. They were able to pick it up. I mean, look at how late she was to her birthday. I get that. I really do get that. And however, I feel like things happen sometimes, right? Like the girl is going through a divorce. And I know, yes, the way she quotes Simon, all that kind of stuff, we talked about that so many times. But I'm like, if it's given like, this is my personal impression. I feel like the newbies watched the previous seasons, they knew where the cracks were in terms of like things that had come up in previous things, right? Previous seasons, like about the whole friendship between Portia and Shamea. And they knew what their plan was. I really truly believe that. I feel like they knew what the plan was. They knew that they were coming to separate them. That was going to be their storyline. I feel like they knew this, it was a thing. So Portia gave them ammunition by coming late to the birthday, and that's all they needed. And then the rest was history. And then it became a constant topic. And the interesting thing is, they did not go to Portia because deep down they knew Shamia was the weakest link. It's like if there are multiple people in a friendship, you know the person to go to if you want to get information about the cracks in the relationship. Because Portia is very self-absorbed. I like the girl, but she's self-absorbed in my opinion, right? She is not about to be out here sitting talking about Shamia. She's just not going to do it. Even in front of the girlies when they were trying to bring up like, "Oh yeah, Portia, do you feel like you've been a really good friend to Shamia?" She shut it down. She was like, "Nah, we're not going to talk about that. Shamia and I are good. We've talked about it and it's done." That's what Shamia should have been doing with the girls every time they brought conversations about her so-called bestie. You don't join in the conversation even if that's how you feel, but yes, she did. And that's the thing. It's just like you opened your mouth even when Kelly was asking her about her conversation with Portia. She was still, her and Britt were asking her about the conversation with Portia. She was still talking like, yeah, we talked. Girl, you're giving too much information. This is your best friend. This is not meant to be part of the storyline. Portia already told you that they have to pay her more to have a friendship as a storyline. She literally told you, and you repeated it on camera. So my thing is like, imagine that she told you that, you repeated it on camera, and yet you're the one that keeps bringing up the relationship. So like that's how it feels. Like it just feels like, okay, girl, like you're the weakest link in the relationship because every time somebody starts talking to you, you start pouring out your heart about how you feel about your so-called bestie, which should not be so. And if we think back to the fact that Angela, Drew talked about how Shamea was literally just pouring it out to them. Drew said in an interview with Carlos that Shamea was basically saying, it was almost like she wanted to come on the show to hear our grievances about Porsha, but she did not want to seem ungrateful to the fans. So she knew that was going to be a storyline. This was before they started filming. So it's like, okay, so you knew that, and that's why it comes across as, and I think that's why people are starting to call out Shamia, because people are starting to read in between the lines to figure out like, okay, girl, it feels like there's more to it than meets the eye. There's more to it than like, everybody has been making it seem. And so yeah, I feel like they both have their faults. I think Portia should not have been late to the birthday. I think if I remember correctly, I think Portia said something about having to film from her mom's house, blah blah blah. Whatever the case may be, I can understand how your best friend is going to be upset that you showed up to the birthday late. But that's the thing, it should be sorted and squashed between you guys, not something that you're pouring your heart out. But then again, technically, she had already poured her heart out to Angela and Drew by this stage anyway. So I guess it was what it was. So back to that, like I just feel like the whole Porsha did what Shamia should have done in all of those conversations with the girls. Shut it down. This is not a topic for conversation. Shut it down. Move on. Now let's talk about Porsha and Drew. I think Porsha and Drew, I feel like Porsha and Drew just need to become friends again because some of the way they move can be very similar. Um, and at this point, it's just like, girl, we are tired of the beef. Squash it. I think it's very interesting though that I feel like Drew doesn't let people talk because even when Porsha was still talking about trying to take accountability, Drew interrupts her to say, oh, she appreciates her taking accountability. Let this lady finish first, then you can say what you have to say. I think for me, I just hate when people randomly interrupt you whilst you're trying to finish your thoughts because it just ends up feeling like you never are able to address whatever it is because somebody is constantly interrupting whatever it is that you are saying. And I personally feel like if Portia had not filmed with Ralph, I don't think that Drew would take accountability for her part in the whole thing. I feel like, think about it, I think until she felt the sting of being on the receiving end. Sorry, that's my alarm to like have a shower and then journal. But yeah, I'll do that after the live. Um but yeah, so I think she if she had at least taken some accountability or like thought about, okay, would I like it if somebody did what I did to Portia? No, I wouldn't. A heads up would be nice. And so I really think that the fact that Portia gave her a little taste of her own medicine allowed her to like reset her brain and think, girl, I was wrong. And that then allowed them to be able to like move on and actually progress. So I'm glad that they eventually sort of like ended it on a decent note. Now I hope it lasts for long. I'm curious to know what the reunion is. Apparently the reunion is being filmed on Thursday. I hope the girls are like well rested and ready to bring it because it's gonna be a hot one. I can already tell, I can feel it. It's gonna be an intense one. I'm ready for the reunion. I will say that. Okay, let's see. What have I missed? I feel like Shamia and Portia's dynamic is like the toxic couple we know, but we leave them as they will not listen to wise counsel, but they will stay together through thick and thin. Do you know what? You're right. And I think part of it is also because they probably hold each other's like secrets, right? Think about it, they've been friends for such a long time. They probably know where the bones are buried. So I definitely think like nobody's out in nobody. So if they have to like suck it up, if they have to like be out here pretending like all is good in the hood, they will do that. However, it feels like Shamia does not want to pretend anymore. And it feels like Porsha is just like, please, I beg, like, let's hide this and deal with it privately. But Shamia, I think Shamia wants to be famous. And I think part of that is she feels like she needs to really tell everything, you know? So I think it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic flows. But interestingly enough, Zena, I really feel like if they weren't beefing this season could have been so good. This season could have been so good. We would have seen them, they would kiki so well, would have seen the laughter, the banter between them. I feel like that's what this season is missing. I feel like this season has a lot of contrived storylines and it feels like everything is just being forced upon us and is missing the light shade, the entertainment, the fun stuff. And that's what I was hoping that we would see. When I found out that Shamia was coming on this new season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, I was like, okay, good, because that would be an opportunity for everybody to be keying, to bring that fun side to Real Housewives of Atlanta. But unfortunately, it was not. It did not happen like that. Instead, it just gives like, okay, now you've come on the show and you want to air the dirty laundry. At least that's what it feels like. Um, do you think, though, guys, do you think that Shamia and Porsha should continue to be friends, or do you think they just need to let it go? Yeah, let's know in the chat. Like, do you think they need to let it go? Whilst you guys are talking about that in the chat, I do. Angela, maybe we'll talk about that properly next week. But Angela and Charles is so embarrassing. Very, very embarrassing. Very. Very embarrassing. Like that man behaves like he does not like you. Remember the way Ralph used to behave with Drew? And people thought like, oh, it's a little odd. But people used to try and get over it because they thought Ralph was cute. Guys, that is what it seems like Charles is doing with his wife. Charles acts like he does not want to be bothered by that woman. And I say by that woman because that's the energy that he gives her. And it's so sad because it's like, that is your wife. Why are you giving your wife that energy like you don't want to be bothered with her? If you saw the preview for the next episode, he was literally out here. He was literally like, she was there like, oh, it's our anniversary, da, 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 da. And he just looks unbothered. Like, please. Like, I doubt he even does anything nice for her. Like, I'm so sad for her. It's so sad to watch. And I'm just like, it's very cringeworthy. It's very sad. I remember when she was saying in her confessionals that, like, if she's trying to find out the ops perspective, she just asks her husband. That is the most upsetting, despicable thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go to my husband if I want the perspective of the op. That is crazy, crazy work. And I really hope, like, Charles, whatever is going on, you guys get therapy, you guys sort it out. Even if you have resentments, like, fix it in therapy, please. Stop being so mean to that woman. Zena said there's parents beef involved, which is stopping them from crossing the boundary. Otherwise, it can get really ugly. But one thing for sure, Porsha is not happy Shamia got a peach. She is for herself. Zena, I'm gonna have to argue with you on that one. No, but seriously, I disagree. I think that Porsha actually has been one of the people trying to get Shamia a peach. Um, and even Andy has backed up this as well, that she's always been supportive of Shamia getting a peach. I think that even Shamia said, Zena, I don't know if you watched the interview with Drew and Carlos. Drew actually said when she was talking about the conversation with Shamea, the Shamea referenced Porsha getting her peach and feeling like, oh, the fans may think she's ungrateful if she comes at Porsha because she got her the peach. So if we think about it like that, why would she get her a peach if she is not happy that she got a peach? I don't think that's it. I think that I feel like Porsha is annoyed by a lot of things that Shamea does. And I feel like she doesn't always address the things that she's angry about. I think she brushes it under the rug and she just keeps it moving. And I think Shamia brushes whatever grievances she has against Portia under the rug as well. And then also tells other people. Then Portia gets frustrated about her telling other people. Then it becomes a cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. Do I think Portia is self centered? Yes. Do I feel like that can be very difficult in a relationship? Yes. Do I think Shamia is too needy? Yes. Do I think that can be difficult in do I think that that can be difficult in relationships? Yes. So I think that Shamia, I don't think Shamia is innocent. I don't think Portia is innocent. I think it takes two parties to get a relationship to the point where it has deteriorated the way it has. And so I feel like Shamia is a people pleaser and has gone and been that way for such a long time, where it's like she feels a certain way, but she doesn't express it. And she continues to go along to get along, but she talks about you to everyone else, and makes friends with your enemies because she is resentful of you, but she will not address the resentment that she feels towards you until she is forced to do so. I think that is really what it is. Um, Let me see. Her actions don't show it. Candy was one of the reasons she got that peach. Honestly, I don't believe Candy was one of the reasons she got that peach. I think Candy was supportive, but think about it. Candy already left the show. If Candy was really the one rooting for her to get a peach and she had that much of a pull, then she would have gotten a peach whilst Candy was on the show. But she did not get a peach whilst Candy was on the show. It was until Candy left the show that she got a peach. So I think it's easy for us to be like, yeah, she got her peach and whatnot. But I think if we think about it, like, why would she say to Drew and Andrew, Angela, sorry, I don't know why Andrew came to my mind, Drew and Angela, privately, right? Why would she do that privately and then say to them that Portia got her on the show, right? Bear in mind, like, this is Drew relaying this. Drew and Portia are not really cool like that. So Drew has no reason to lie for Portia. She doesn't. So if she's saying that Shamia told her that Portia got her the peach, then that's crazy, you know? So yeah. Shamia is not a victim. She and Portia's sister have encouraged Portia's bad behavior. They don't call her for nonsense either. I don't really know about Lauren as much, so maybe, but I feel like, yes, I agree with you about Shamia. If you don't like something that somebody does, it's your duty to call it out. It's not right for you to then take it to somebody else and then, or be acting a certain way to them and then be out here spreading, like, or whatever, your grievances to everybody but the person in question. That's just nasty work. They both said she was during their interview on Speak on It. Sorry, when you say they both said she was, what do you mean by that? Zena, just please let me know. But yeah, I do think that I think people just need to speak up a lot more in friendships. Like, if you want something, if something ain't working for you, find the strength and say it and just be like, okay, this ain't working for me. Like, this is not what I want from a relationship. Guys, please hit that like button, please. Hit that like button. Yeah. So I would say, like, just be forthcoming and speak on it. Be honest, right? And I think that's Shamia's problem. She hasn't been honest, and that's why she is in the predicament she is in. Now, whilst Zena, just clarify for me, you said they both said she was during their interview. Are you saying they both said she was supportive? And but are you saying like they both like Candy and Shamea? Please clarify for me what you mean. In the meantime, how do you guys feel about Phaedra Parks being back? I You guys know I've covered the bit about the ratings have not improved. It ain't looking good. And yeah, I think it's all the fake storylines. I think we are tired. We need some good storylines. We need some energy. We need some of that. Zena, of course they're gonna say that. Two things can be true. Of course they're gonna say, yeah, Candy vouched for her. But to say that Porsha didn't is not fair because Porsha also vouched for her. And out of Shamea's mouth to Drew and Angela, she said that Porsha got her the peach. So it's like, why say that if you don't mean that or if you don't know that to be true? Even when she had a conversation with the girls, she said Porsha showed her text messages showing that she was pushing for her. So it's just like, I think that I know that people are not liking Porsha, and I get it because she's not really looking good this season at all. She's not looking good this season at all. But at the same time, I feel like it's very easy to look and be like, oh yeah, no, she just doesn't want her there or whatever. But if she's been out here trying to push for you to get something, vouch for you, say your name every opportunity that she gets. Why else would you say she's not happy or she doesn't want you to be on the show when she has shown that she wants you to be on the show? For them to go and bring Phaedra 2 weeks to the end of the show shows that they know that they do not have a show. And they must have been so desperate that they had to go and get Phaedra to pull up. So yeah. Thanks Zena for clarifying. I literally clocked after I reread it because I was like, I don't remember Portia attacking Angela. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that they went to go and get Portia and they probably said to her, yo, nothing is happening on this season. We need you to come. If you want to come on the show, you need to come. You need to bring it. And so I think Phaedra knew she was working against time and she just had to clock in, and it was easy to go for the people who already have certain storylines. I'm almost convinced that she was prepped by production. Allegedly, in my opinion. Okay, she reminds me of those people who want you to rise but not above them. It's the attitude she gives. Okay, I hear it. Maybe it could be that. um it's one of those things where who knows, like I always think like, with the attitude of people, right? Sometimes you can think this person wants you here, and then in reality, maybe they don't want you here, and you may not eventually know until like later on in life or later on. So it could be that. Um, I think I do feel though that it's more she wants her here, but she doesn't feel like she needs to be buddy buddies. As in, like, the reason why I say that is because from Shamea's mouth, if you guys remember the conversation that she had with, or confrontation, if you want to call it that, that she had with Portia. During the confrontation, she basically was saying, like, yeah, you were saying about like they don't pay you enough to bring da 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 da. That is clear that it's not really something that she wants to address, right? And I also think Portia probably feels I've stood on my own for a while. I've stood on my own for a while. I've been on the show in my own right for such a long time. I do not want to be tied to the apron strings of somebody. I want to be able to have my own name by myself. Even though Portia and Phaedra do frick and frack, they still have very much individual identities. But it feels like Shamea just wanted to team up. And I don't think Portia was here for that. So I think that's more the vibe I get with Portia, where I'm just like, she just feels like, please, like, you don't have to be tied to my apron strings. Go and thrive in the group. Like, you to go and work. That's the vibe that I get. It's like you came here, you want to be on the show, now you go work. We don't have to use my friendship as a conversation. You go work, make your own storyline. It also feel that production was testing the waters of how fans would receive her since she's excited. Yes, I completely agree. I think that they were like, all right, let's sprinkle her in a little bit towards the end. Let's try to get her in. I think for a while they've known that the fans are kind of open to having Phaedra back, but I wish that Phaedra did not go to Married to Medicine because I think that reduced the fans' excitement for Phaedra. And I think in Married to Medicine, she didn't really thrive. And so, because of that, it reduced the expectation. People were not really feeling Phaedra like that. People were just feeling like, girl, what does Phaedra bring to the show that is that deep that other people cannot get? You know, like, oh, she's on the confessionals with the who's, the how's, the faces. You know, people want a lot more than that. Now, OG Real Housewives of Atlanta, it was like light shade, facial expressions, confessionals, but they all had like very nice, seamless banter between them, and they could all keep each other on their toes. So I feel like that's why it flowed really well. But on Married to Medicine, Phaedra did not have an ensemble of people who were like that. She didn't. So there was no one to be like, okay, I pulled this down, you know, bouncing off their energy, all that kind of stuff. No, not existent. So I do feel like genuinely that if they really should have never put Phaedra on Married to Medicine, it was not a good fit for her. I feel like the fact that she brought nothing to that show actually made people feel like they don't really need her. When people saw her in Real Housewives of Dubai, they were really excited. People really wanted her back. But once Married to Medicine happened, they kind of felt like she didn't really bring much to Married to Medicine. And I feel like that reduced the anticipation for her when she then came onto Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's just what I think. But guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. um yeah, I think that is all I wanted to talk about today. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging with me. Yeah, so please hit that like button, please hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, turn on all your notifications so you know every single time that I post or go live. Have a wonderful day.